Welcome to the Coloring Collective. Today we are going to color part 2 of this page with the sun and the moon. Let's go ahead and get started.
Lemon Yellow 005. I'm going to go ahead and color in some of these stars. And I'm also going to do a fun technique that I like to do with stars, and that's to very lightly color a little circle around them so that when we color the background color, probably a blue or dark blue, they look like they're glowing and they really stand out. I'm also not going to color every single star the same color. So let's just do every other star or so. Kind of color some random, and get a little bit of a circle around there. Not too big and not too dark. So I'm just continuing to move around the page, coloring in random stars. I think I'll pick 2 other yellow colors for a total of about 3 different yellow shades, just to give it some variety. I don't want every single star to be the same color. Cadmium Yellow Deep 075. I'm going to pick this as the other yellow color and then maybe do a different one for a third color or something in the middle. So again, I'm just coloring the star pretty dark, pressing pretty hard with the pencil, and then really lightly doing a little circle around the outside. And you can actually pick a pretty random pattern here, or you can follow along and do the same stars that I'm doing. Doesn't really have much of an impact on the final product. Cadmium Orange Light 074. So this will be our third and final color for the stars. And I think it's a pretty good choice, just a little bit different than the yellow, the two other yellow shades that we used. And we'll just go around and finish up the rest of the stars on the page. Chinese Orange 026. I'm going to use this color for this little border stripe that goes all the way around the page. It's a nice dark color. I think it'll really seal in the design. And then I want to pick a blue for the sky that's not too dark, but not too light that it doesn't look like nighttime. I'm going to sharpen my pencil a little bit because this is a pretty small area. Make sure you're filling it in pretty nicely and pushing down with the pencil. Just be sure to really take your time here and not go outside the lines because it'll really be noticeable. I'm also not using pencil strokes that are too long. Remember, you can use your eraser if you need to. Oops, I'll have to get that spot with the eraser later. All right, done with this circle. Primrose Yellow 002. I'm gonna come in here and get this part kind of on the outside of these little scallop shapes. And then I'll come in with a darker color to blend in. I'll do the same down here. Just color in about half of this teardrop shape. Starting on the outside, and I'm pressing pretty hard with the pencil, and then get a little bit lighter, coloring in about half. And do the same thing with this one and then the other one. These shapes down at the bottom of the page. So we'll keep this color and do the same design just about halfway. Again, starting out pressing pretty hard with the pencil and coming up about halfway and then gradually getting lighter. Now these are still teardrops, but they have a little space between them. So we'll just do the very end of the like petal shape, and same with these two, just the end of the teardrop here, about halfway. Cadmium Yellow 007. I think this is a pretty good shade to mix with the Primrose Yellow, and that'll show like a nice darker contrast. So again, I'm pressing pretty hard at the point and then gradually getting a little lighter, mixing it with the color that we already put on the page. Yeah, this looks pretty good. I'm happy with this combination of colors. So we'll just go around and finish coloring in all of these darker spots. And then up here at the top of the page, we'll do the same thing. Really gives these flourishes a nice three-dimensional look. So I'm going to keep this same cadmium yellow and just come around here and get some of these swirl designs. Color them in, but leave a little space for another color, like down here at the ends, and then here in this little round part. And then we'll come over here, get the base of this design. Looks like it's coming from somewhere behind where this frame cuts off. So we'll just color this little swirl. And I'm pressing pretty hard with the pencil. Some of these are a lot wider and some of them are pretty thin. So I'm just going in really carefully and coloring in a majority of it, but leave some of it blank. We'll come in with some kind of lighter color. Maybe more of an orange color instead of yellow. So I'm just slowly making my way around the page, coloring in all these little swirl designs. And just leaving a little bit for another color. Oh, this one gets pretty small. Now I don't really want to color it in right here by these teardrops that I have, because I don't want it to compete with the teardrops. So I'm going to leave that space blank and come back, and same down here. I'll where it overlaps with the other little swirl design. I'm going to leave that empty to come back later. All right, we are just about done with this color. Very carefully. Orange Lake 016. This will be a good color to contrast with the yellow that we just did. So I'll just very carefully go in and color where I left it white, blending it, the orange back in with the yellow here and there. So I'm pressing pretty lightly when I blend it with the yellow, but then in the sections that are just solid white, I'm pressing pretty hard so that the orange color really shows up. Just be careful and take your time getting into all these little spaces. I think this orange turned out to be a pretty good complement to the yellow because you don't want it to be too close in shades that you can hardly tell that you intentionally use two different colors. So you want it to be 2 or 3 shades different, lighter or darker, to really stand out. And then see how we're coloring around these teardrops here. You can also see how there was 2 different colors inside the teardrops, and that stands out in a different way. we'll just continue this pattern all the way around the page, filling in all the little white spaces that we left before. It's mostly these round parts at the end of the spiral, and then these little details right here. And be sure to keep your pencil sharp because some of this is pretty small. Here we go, a little bit more. This is the fun part about coloring, is that you just kind of get into your own little zen, and you just go around and you're just coloring without really paying much attention. And before you know it, like an hour has gone by and you just filled in the whole page. I think that also applies when we color in the sky, because if you notice, it's a pretty big page, and so we'll use blue, maybe 2 shades of blue, we'll see, to color in this big space for the sky. Again, just blending really carefully with this yellow. I'm just going to come down the center of this little part here, since the orange really fills in a lot of this. Make it look like it's a three-dimensional decoration, basically. Cobalt Blue Deep 095. I'm going to very carefully use this color around the stars that we've already colored. Remember, we did that very light sort of glow effect around them. So I'm just very carefully coming around all the way around the outside of this yellow glow, pressing really light with the pencil, and just sort of coming in some of these places and giving them a little bit of a sketch look. And then very lightly coloring with the cobalt blue like this. And then we're going to blend this blue with another darker blue. So we're actually not coloring too far away from this yellow glow. And this whole time I'm pressing really, really light. We go around each star until we get far enough out that we can just do a solid blue. And some of the stars sort of overlap, like these two. So just really careful not to accidentally blend the blue and the yellow together. And you don't want it to be too perfect either. You want it to have a little bit of a rough sketch look. You want it to look more like a piece of art instead of something too smooth. You want it to look handmade. Now, in addition to these stars that are glowing, the sun is also glowing. So I think I'll do a really, really light shade around these sun rays here. And then I'm going to blend it. I'm actually going to push a little bit harder than I did on the stars because it has this black line around the outside, and that kind of helps. So we'll just carefully go all the way around the sun with the cobalt. And just keep using this same format and method, coloring very, very lightly all around. And I will see you again in just a few minutes. Ultramarine Light 044. I'm just going to pick up where I left off with the other blue color and start blending it in with this color. And be real careful around all the orange and the other yellow, and then right up against the moon here too. And And then I'm not pushing too hard when I'm blending it. Just trying to be really light and blending it. And then once I get away from the blending part, that's when I'm going to push a little harder with the pencil. Like back here. So just be really careful around all of the light blue. There we go. Just right up next to it, like that. We're doing very carefully. So again, I just start out pressing really light. Blending it with the cobalt blue. And then come around here and press a little bit darker. So we'll go ahead and follow this same pattern all the way around. And just filling in all of that space that's left. And I will go ahead and meet you in just a couple minutes when we get there. So we'll just keep filling this in with the ultramarine very carefully. Just filling all the white space that you had. I'm also trying to follow some of the direction of the pencil strokes that I was in before. Like this around the sun, following that direction, and then this is a little more round. And then we end up with this sort of triangle shape in here. And make that a little darker. And just take your time going all the way around the page. Maybe get into a little Zen rhythm of coloring. And I will catch up with you a little bit further in a couple more minutes all the way around. Well, it looks like we are just about done with all of the blue and done coloring the entire page. So let's take a look at all of our hard work. Zoom out and take a look at the whole page. Well, look at all this hard work we did. The sun and the moon and all of these stars. And not to forget all these little decorations up here. Thank you very much for coloring along with me, and I will see you next time.